Join me as I take on the challenge of creating holiday decor using the Campfire Marshmallow theme. Hi, I'm Sylvia from Backyard Brushes, and I recently sold a rolling pin with the Campfire Marshmallow and Santa on it. I thought she was purchasing it because she likes the Campfire Marshmallow craze. But no, she purchased it since her kids like marshmallows and Santa. So I got to thinking, I should make some more. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. For project 1, I'm using 3 different rolling pins. I'm gonna do a batch. And first I started by painting the barrels with Birch by Fusion Alchemy. And I'm using a lighter color under the rice paper so that it pops out a little more. Setting the pins on the paint really lets the barrels dry easily. Using the Fusion Mineral Paint in a navy, I think it's Midnight Blue, I painted one set of the handles. Using Fusion in Highlander, I painted another set of handles. What's nice about the Fusion is it's self-sealing. And for the third set, I used cast iron, which is a lighter black. I used a sanding sponge, which I can link in the description below, to scuff up each of the handles. I then went over the handles with DIY dark wax just to help give it that aged look. After applying the dark wax, I just wiped it off with a paper towel. And I did this for each handle on all 3 rolling pins. I printed out some Campfire Marshmallow digital downloads from Etsy on mulberry rice paper. And using the wet tear method, I just went around the edges. I sized up the paper to make sure it fit the barrel of the rolling pin. And using DIY liquid patina, I applied the mulberry paper, rice paper, onto the barrel of the rolling pin. I did mist my paper first. It helps minimize wrinkling. And I used the same method on all 3 rolling pins, even though I used different images. And all of the images I did purchase off of Etsy. I will also link the printer that I use along with the paper in the description below. And when painting on the mulberry paper, rice paper, I do set my printer to transparency since the paper is lighter than your normal typing paper or computer paper. It prevents burning out my laser printer. Once it is completely sealed, I did let it dry and I gave it a top coat of the DIY liquid patina. And for the second rolling pin, I did the Campfire Marshmallow with the Santa Claus using the same method. And for the third rolling pin, I did the Campfire Marshmallow non-holiday theme for the rolling pin. And then each rolling pin, the barrel got a second coat of liquid patina. Once that was dry, I did go over it with golden, which is a nice matte medium, which gives it a really strong protective coat. When that dried, I went around the edges of the rolling pins with some DIY dark wax and blotted them off with a paper towel. And with the Campfire Marshmallow, I did go in and kind of grunged up the middle lightly just to give it more of a vintage distressed look. Two of the rolling pins had the hole in the handles, which is always a great score when I can find one of those. I used some crushed velvet and tied on through the hole to give it a hanger. And I actually think the Rudolph was my favorite. In the beginning, I thought it was going to be my least. I tend to price my rolling pins for $15 a piece. For project 2, I'm using a tote that I purchased from Cindy at CNC Designs, and I can leave that link also below. I had bought them in bulk for some workshops. I painted the tote in the Midnight Blue by Fusion, and then using crinoline by DIY, I painted both side panels. Again, using a lighter color to help make the printout pop. I printed out a Campfire Marshmallow label that I had purchased again from Etsy. And using the water method, I tore the edges so the Campfire Marshmallow would have a jagged edge, yet still fit that side panel. I misted the paper and using DIY liquid patina, I first placed the paper onto the board and kind of sized it up the best I could. Then using the liquid patina by DIY, I applied the rice paper, well, it's a mixture of mulberry rice paper, onto the side panel. And I did do this on both sides of the tote so that it would be more complete. I did use the liquid patina as a top coat for the decoupage as a decoupage medium. I used the sanding sponge and I went with the fibers in an up and down motion to take off the excess paper so that it was more flush with the tote. Using DIY dark wax, I just kind of went over the edges and a little bit inside of the Campfire Marshmallow label to give it that vintage feel. Using the antique glazing wax, Fusion's antique glaze, I went over the midnight blue on the tote to kind of darken it up and again stick with that vintage vibe. I bought some coffee mugs at the dollar store, and the cocoa bombs and some other cocos and the candy canes. And some of the hot cocoa actually came from Walmart. Some of it came from the dollar store. I will probably sell the tote for probably $35. For project 3, I'm using a cutting board that I purchased actually off of Amazon. Again, I had some of these in bulk for a workshop. And if you don't have cutting boards in your stash, I can leave a link also in the description below. I painted it Highlander by Fusion, and then when it was dry, I used Vaseline and I just randomly applied it to the cutting board. I used DIY crinoline and I painted it right on top of the Vaseline. I used a heat gun to apply heat to get a crackle where the paint would not adhere to the cutting board due to the Vaseline, and I just gave it a quick sand. I like the distressed look it leaves. I have these downloads. So I uploaded the downloads into ChatGPT, and I got some, and I asked for some ornament. It's based on the downloads. So using the wet method, and I tore around the ornament portion, the circular portion, misted it, and using DIY liquid patina, I applied the circular label to the cutting board. Using the DIY liquid patina, I sealed the cutting board and the decoupage paper so it would all have the same matte finish. Using DIY Dark and Decrepit, I went around the edges of the label just to give it that vintage vibe, and then I went around the cutting board. Using a paper towel, I was able to blot out, wipe off the rest of, or the excess wax. Then I got to thinking, I wonder if the fine line crackle would work even though I'd applied wax. So I pulled it out thinking, what the heck, I might as well try. And I applied the first layer of the fine line crackle. It's a two-part component. And the first layer goes on white, and then you set it aside and you just let it dry until it's completely clear. I then used component 2 and I covered up the label using heat to help bring out that crackle. And then I let it dry, and unfortunately I didn't get the rest of it on film, but I did use Dark and Decrepit dust into the crevices to get the fine line crackle effect, which is difficult to see in the picture, but it did work. For project 4, I decided to make some ornaments, and I just used wood slices that I had purchased off of Amazon. I can also leave that link in the description box below. And I printed out the different pieces of ornaments that ChatGPT helped me create from the downloads I had purchased from Etsy. I painted the wood slices with crinoline by DIY. I used the DIY liquid patina. I did spray the paper first and then applied them to the wood slices. And I did a different image on each side of the slices. I also coated them with DIY liquid patina as a top coat, and I sanded the edges off. I just went around and I followed the up and down motion as I just went around the ornament with the finger sander. I used actually a photo holder to punch through the hole where the decoupage paper was. Usually I use a a shish kebab spear. Using DIY dark wax, I went around the edges of the ornaments. I used painter's tape on twine, thread the twine through the holes, and created a hanger for the ornaments. And this was super simple. I will probably sell the ornaments for $3 a piece. I would love to know which one of these projects was your favorite, and also, are you going to give one of these projects a try? If so, which one? Please leave me a comment below. And if you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.